Hey, so it's November, my favorite time of year for being an entrepreneur. I find this time of year like the best time to get inspired, get dreamy, start thinking about what you want to accomplish next year, and really get into the details and start planning. So I start out being kind of inspired and just like getting all my ideas out, but pretty quickly I get move into the planning, and then leave execution for January and the rest of the year. But I wanted to share with you, a bit of the process that I always follow every year in November, and I call it my full year plan. I have a whole workbook on this. I'll leave a link. It's alyssacoleman.ca/year, I think, but I'll leave the link somewhere here. And you can check it out if you want to do the same thing. But I want to share with you the four-part process, just an overview of what each part is. The workbook goes into more details. And, I also um, I usually do this workshop called the Best Year Yet workshop, and I think I'm going to do it again this year if you guys would be interested, where we plan out your entire year. So I go even deeper in that workshop, of course. But I want to give you an overview of what we do. So number one, the first thing we do is our year in review. So I shared with you last week in the IGTV how to do a year in review and 8 of the questions that we ask ourselves before we ever get into planning 2021. So if you haven't watched that yet, go back and watch it. Answer those questions before you move into phase two. And then phase two is all about catching feelings. And I used to skip this part, but now it's an absolutely essential part of what we do, which is basically trying to figure out why we actually want to hit the goals that we're setting for ourselves. So this is, to me, really about motivation. When you know what's motivating you to hit that target, it's so much easier to actually hit that target, but more importantly, to achieve the feeling. Even if you don't hit the target, you can achieve the feeling, because sometimes you think hitting a certain goal is going to bring you the outcome that you want, when really it's a totally different thing. Long story, I won't get into how basing your goals on desires is a process. I learned this from Danielle Laporte, big student of hers, and you should read her book Desire Map to find out more about how to do that, what to do. But basically, I asked myself, what's my goal? What's motivating me to hit that goal? So if your goal is like you want to have 5-figure months, what's the reason for that? Is it that you want to feel abundant? Is that you want to feel luxurious? Is it that you want to feel security? These are all very different motivations, and you can go about achieving that goal in much different ways based on how you want to feel. So I know it might seem a little bit fluffy, but it freaking works. So don't skip step number 2. Okay, step number 3, our favorite part, actually setting goals. So this is where the pen meets the paper, and we really get into what's our big year goal. And we have one main motivation for the entire year. It can either be a monetary motivation, it can be a just like company mission, it can be whatever you want, but you need to have one, just one. I know you want to have 77, but you can just have one. So we have 1 year goal. Then we break down that year goal. How can we hit that target in 4 quarters? So we break that down into 4 big quarterly targets. Each quarter has its own main mission. Again, it's just one goal for an entire quarter. Then from there, we slowly break it down more. We create our monthly goals, our monthly targets. We dive into our numbers, our launches, our project plans, where we want to expand, what tools we want to use, if we want to hire anyone, what software we might need to purchase, all that stuff. This happens in phase 3, and that's really about setting goals and creating the action plan. This takes the longest time, obviously. And then step 4 is what we call date night. This is putting all the dates into our calendar. And this is when a lot of things change, right? So we might have one specific goal for the quarter, and then we start mapping it out on calendar, and we're like, well, that's not going to work because we're going to be away here, or I would be away or something, or it's Black Friday, or like things happen. So we start moving things around, or this isn't enough time to grow our list by as many people as we actually want to. And so we'll start to adjust things, and we put everything in our calendar. And you might think this is like being overzealous, planning from January to December, but it's really not. I honestly barely change my calendar at all from November the year before to the next November or really December. We follow through on all of our targets. And that's how we find is the best way to actually hit each one of these goals and know what kind of wiggle room we have in our business and with what projects we want to bring on. And it's a great way to be really realistic with what we plan to achieve, but also it's a really great way to guarantee that we're going to hit our targets. Because if I know this week I need to grow my community by 200 people, I'm going to find a way to do that, or we're going to have a system, or we're going to have an automation to do that. If I'm just guessing each month and planning something new the following month, it's a lot harder to keep control of all those moving pieces, right? So once we do that now, we just get to execute it for the entire rest of the year, which is, such a relief. And we always hit our targets when we follow this year planning process. So I dare you to give it a try, do your year in review, catch feelings, set your big goals, and then have a date with your calendar. The other thing that I really think is important is when you get into the step two, which is where you catch feelings, start making a list of all the areas that you could start to feel that way in your life as well as in your business. So this is where we sprinkle in a little bit of life stuff. And, let's say mine was, what was one of the examples I gave? Luxury. Maybe I really wanted to feel luxurious next year. That definitely wouldn't probably be one of my feelings, but maybe it will be. So if that was the case, then I would look for ways to feel that luxury in my everyday life as well. So what are some things that I could do, like maybe hire a cleaning lady, or that doesn't sound luxury, does it? I don't really know things about what else could be luxury. Maybe you get like the organic food delivery box, or I don't know, that would feel like luxury to me. So those are some things that I may do in my life to like amplify that feeling. And then the same thing, how can you do those things in your business? But most importantly, you also want to create a list of things that you're not going to do anymore that are going to make you feel the opposite of what your main feeling that you want is. So if I want to feel luxury, I'm not going to hire that freelancer from Fiverr that never really does a good job, but they're only $5. I'm not going to DIY this website page because it's going to be cheaper than hiring someone. I'm not going to do those things, right? So you create your stop doing list. I talk a lot about this. This is a habit that millionaires use all the time. Is they rather than adding things to their list, they're constantly editing, eliminating, and figuring out what they want to stop doing. So add that in when you're doing step two. That's our 4-part process. If you want to follow along with that process and answer the questions that we like to ask ourselves, grab the workbook. It's free. I'll leave the link here. But happy year planning. I'm really, really excited to see what everybody does in 2021 and to do my own year planning like right now. Goodbye.